I did not disagree with you there. I did not say it was better at, like other things were better at encryption. I'm not arguing that point. There's no point. You're right in there, okay? So I don't need to defeat you there in any way. I'm not going to argue against you there in any way because there's no use. And that's flat out true, okay? So isn't decrypting the data thus isn't piracy? No. Because when you say decrypting the data, it's not just decrypting the data. It's not just going, this random piece of information, da-da. Because guess what? If I did that, what it's pretty much doing is putting it in your own words. Okay? And if I read a book and I rewrote that book by changing every third or fourth word, I still copied that book. I still need to cite my source. When AI generates a new image in that way, it doesn't cite its source. It doesn't give credit. I would have to pay that author if I wanted to use that much of their work. I would have to pay them for contribution. I would have to pay them under resources. I would have to then also put into my glossary that I used it. And I wouldn't have done any of those things. Because what I would have done is I would have just copied every third or fourth word. I would have copied every concept. I wouldn't have made a new thing by myself. I would have taken what already existed, kind of mushed it together with a bunch of other things, and there would be no creative liberty there. And I don't understand why, when people have worked so hard to become so good at art, and to become and have that skill, that we would want to replace it. Why not just pay the artist? Why not just pay someone to do the work? I understand getting an AI if we could get it to be a robot to do hoovering, but then we also still lose the baseline of a job. Because another issue within the generative AI is it's not smart enough yet to do amazing jobs. It's also not thinking. So it's not... AI is kind of a lie. But anyway, it's not smart enough to do the best jobs yet. So we still need those entry positions to then be able to have those higher positions that need to know it. Did you know AI has solved 9% of high issues? Amazing! Did you know that it's learned from all the things that humans have done beforehand? And again, that's great. AI is also used when doing x-rays to find smaller things that doctors and us and people will miss. Like I'm saying, I'm not anti all AI. I am anti-generative AI. I am anti-AI that helps you not learn. Because if we're going to fight stats like that, did you know AI causes your brain? Your brain is a muscle, right? We're no longer using that muscle when we totally use AI. It is shrinking. It is shrinking your brain. That is another thing AI will do. It shrinks your brain. The brain is a muscle. The brain is, fact, a muscle. We work out our brains. It's nothing but grey matter and white matter. It is also synapses that learn and grow. It is, you know how like when you have a muscle and you work out a lot and how it gets these new strands because it gets bigger and you grow more of those fibers, like the fiber lines? That is it growing. That is your muscle growing. You know when you work out your brain and it actually does get more wrinkles? Grey and white matter is what it's made of. It is not what it is. Your brain is a muscle. You work out your brain. When you think, you work out your brain. Because when you think, you form new synapses. And when you use those synapses more and more and more, that path gets stronger and quicker. It's why we get people, when they're doing sums, to redo them and redo them and redo them. When you learn your times tables, there's a reason you continuously do your times tables. It's to reinforce that neural pathway. MIT found it was shrinking your brain, so if you want to say it's grey and white matter, okay, your grey and white matter is shrinking. That's your argument. Oh no, the fact didn't change. I understand it grows like a muscle, but not everything like that is a muscle and has hamstrings are the same muscle fibers, and we call even that not a muscle, so I'm not picking and choosing. Okay, you're not picking and choosing, it's shrinking. Bad news, buddy, it's shrinking. Hamstring muscles, fair enough. I'm not just talking about your hamstring. I'm talking about all. Those are like your ligaments, your tendons. Because I understand your point. It can still be tricky. Yes. When we overly rely on AI, it makes us dumber. Which is why I think it can be such a problem within the learning and education field, because there is a reason that we are failing education. There is a reason. I'm not saying that we shouldn't use AI to research. I'm not saying we shouldn't use AI to do things. I'm just saying when it then comes in contact and then becomes a problem in any other aspect, we shouldn't just turn to it and be like, well, this will fix everything. No, we should not allow people of certain ages to be using AI because we're just not going to learn to think. And it's already happening across ages. And it is terrifying. The fact that we haven't updated our education system makes it a lot worse. Because that is something we needed to do years ago. And that is something we haven't done at all. And I think that is mortifying. Because how can we continue to be this like incredibly intelligent and smart race without that? It could be a number of factors. It could be microplastics, it could be lead pipes, and it could be poisonous plants. That is all true, but we have connected it to AI. Because it's the rate of shrinkage, okay? The rate of shrinkage within people who use AI is higher. That is just plain fact, right? You can say it's great. It can be great. It can be great. It can be amazing. Plain fact, it is still shrinking at a faster rate if you use it. It's what happens when you don't exercise it. It is what will continue to happen when you do not exercise it. Because if you don't need to think and you don't need to go and search out for an answer, you're not using your brain, you're using someone else's. Because you're not actually understanding the concepts most of the time. You're going, that's what I need. Take what you need and leave the rest, and you don't understand how it got there. Because you don't go through the process to then get there. And I'm going to go back to your original point so I don't get completely lost within all of this. Right. I've debunked the pro-science, like anti-science. Because anti-AI does not inextricably mean anti-science. I'm going to deduct the pro-abuse, because I do not believe most people who are anti-AI are pro-abuse. And I have an amazing factor for this. Most people who are anti-AI do not like how X or Twitter has fixed this problem. Because let's rewind to what Grok was doing. Grok was stripping children and women of consent, of right, and they were also stripping them of clothing. Because they were using it to make people who did not want to be naked, naked. That is an abuse. You ignored consent and you made crude images. And you're doing it of people who do not want it. What is the difference? Okay, also the Prussian education model isn't necessarily the worst for updating per modern technology. I could argue, look at the Beijing and Tokyo, look at Singapore. I say the Prussian education model is better with AI. Okay, I think no education model should have AI. And I'm not saying education with or without AI. I'm saying the education system in general. I live in the UK. The UK's education system has not been updated for 200 years. The goal of most of the education systems is memorize and follow order. That was the training of it. That is what we've been trained to do. Because when that was originally made, it was made 200 years ago when we had the big boom. So we were making industry. That's what they wanted you to be good at. They wanted you to be good in factory. They wanted you to be good in industry. And then my country moved away from that when we moved into liberalism. Which isn't great, but it moved away from the whole factory and moves forward into services. Come here, you little switch, please. There we go. The Western model based off Prussian because of the Georgias being German, just to give you history. I understand. My language, English, stems from a Germanic language base, which we all do, which is also Latin. I understand the history of Europe pretty well. I will give you that. My geography is my biology is pretty good, but my history is great. I got A's in history. it's a preferred one of mine because human behavior is relatively predictable. The Western model is based on Prussians. Yes. I keep reading that message. Did someone say naked pictures? Yes! I was going on to how AI is actually not necessarily pro or anti-abuse, it depends on the user. And therefore anti-AI people are not necessarily pro-abuse, because also let's look at AI users who are doing abusive things and ways of stripping people of their clothing. Just because they put it behind a paywall does not mean it's doing any better. I feel like your views on AI isn't necessarily intersectional with your views on abuse. Exactly. I also only endorse real naked ladies, because at least they get paid. And if they're not being paid, well, I'm not going to get into my thoughts on the, not necessarily legalization, but also the legalization of sex work in a way so then it can be moderated under the law and regulated, which would be much better than how it works within sex work currently. Have you heard of the automatic proof solvers to automatically make proof? That's a nothing. Held up message. Ah, are you in like New Zealand or something? And fair enough. I believe people should be allowed to do whatever they want in set spaces for those things. Ah, that also makes sense. But no. Automatic proof solvers like to automatically make proof is a nothing sentence. That's a nothing sentence. You can find proof for anything, it's whether it's bad. I'm saying automatically making your proof is you going for the Prussian education model. That's not making proof. That's me saying my model is flawed. I didn't say it's good, I said it's bad. My education model is bad. I don't think it teaches you what you should be learning. I don't think it's based in a way that it should be learnt that way. I believe education should be learnt in a way that then makes you think creatively, and makes you expand. I believe in giving people fundamentals and then showing them how to use those fundamentals to think in a way that therefore you can solve your problems yourself. I do not believe in a model that is about memorization and that it should be how you learn. I think they should teach you how to think so then you can learn. It's not good, and I don't understand how that could be proof. I'm saying all education is flawed, and that can also lead to a problem when we then combine it with AI, when it's an education model without memory, and then you don't have to memorize it, you can get it to write it itself. I believe in people who actually want to write an essay should learn how to write an essay properly, because that is how to structure an argument and a debate. The reason I can give way that AI is good at some things is because I learned how to do a persuasive essay. A persuasive essay, it does concede points, because guess what? You have to concede points. I'm not going to flat out outrule everything. AI has its purposes, I'm just saying it's not great. See, you accidentally didn't learn how to write essays in school because you changed school. People accidentally don't learn how to write essays in school because they think AI can do it for them, and then they don't learn the fundamental. It's important to learn the fundamental before you continue on with something. But I think Letterboxd reviews make it pretty good essays now. It's good. I think it's good to learn, and that doesn't mean just because you didn't do it at the beginning at your fundamental stage does not mean you cannot learn to then do it. I think that's great. I think it's important to be able to do all of those things and learn, and I think it's important to learn and use your brain with a pen and a pencil. Because, like, how else will you learn how to write a letter? I get typing's great, but you know what it looks like, now use your hand. It builds motor skills, it builds fine motor skills, it builds coordination. It builds sentiments within your brain, because another thing of it, when you are writing and when you are reading and when you are actually doing it with your own eyes, it builds patience and empathy and memory. Because you have to remember what's happened in the book. It builds patience because you have to wait until the end to find out. And it builds empathy because then you learn how to get attached to a character and relate to them and hope they do well. These are fundamental core parts that we are cutting out by using AI and other technologies like voice-to-speech. And, well, text-to-speech, sorry. Our famous studio director blocked me on Facebook the other day because I was telling him AI filmmaking is an awful idea. True!